That one doesn't belong here. Get him off. This is a good neighborhood. That's how it started. One of those perfect autumn mornings, sun coming up just right, leaves glowing like stained glass. The kind of day you want to freeze and bottle because you know winter's waiting just around the corner. My son, my sweet boy, stood at the bottom step of the school bus, brand new backpack weighing him down, white shirt still too crisp, jeans a little too long, just beaming at me. First week riding the bus solo, and he was proud, waving at me with a look that said, "I'm really doing this, Mom." And then, record scratch. A scream, jagged and raw, tore right through our peaceful little morning and spun everything sideways. I just stood there, waving, frozen, and watched this woman. Heavy set, blonde hair wild as a nest, gray bathrobe clinging like a warning, pointing her finger with so much hate it made me dizzy. She was pointing at my son, and in that moment, everything changed. She starts shrieking, really letting it rip, spitting about how she's seen his kind before, how we're casing houses, how he doesn't belong. The bus driver, God bless him, craned his head out the window, just as stunned as the rest of us, not knowing what the hell to do. My son, he turned, his smile dropping off his face like a mask. 7 years old, so small and proud, and suddenly not sure if the world wanted him. That was the moment, the one burned into my memory, the thumbnail everyone saw before clicking on the story, the exact instant my world tilted on its axis and never quite came back. She kept going, louder now, stepping off her porch into the grass, soaking her robe, shrieking that she's calling the cops, that the bus driver's in on it too. She slams the door, and we're left in this roaring, empty silence, my son on the bottom step, paralyzed, the driver looking at me for instructions. You ever have that feeling? Like you're in a play and suddenly everyone's forgotten their lines, except the villain? Because that's what it felt like. "Honey, it's okay," I told my son, voice shaking, heart galloping. "Get on the bus, baby, it's okay." But he wouldn't move. The driver's panicking. What do I do? She says she's calling the police. If I leave, will I get in trouble? He's just a guy doing his job, caught up in madness. And I realized there is no protocol for this. No handbook for what to do when your neighbor decides your kid is a threat because he looks different. And then, the sirens. Faint at first, but getting closer, louder, cutting right through the crisp air. My heart dropped. The bus, my son, me, we all became a scene in a drama we never auditioned for. The police pull up, blue and red lights flickering, making our quiet street look like a crime scene. A young cop steps out, all stiff uniform and serious eyes, scanning the bus, my son, the house across the street. He listens to the bus driver, then walks over to me. "Ma'am, we got a call about a suspicious individual trying to board a school bus." He actually said that, suspicious individual, while looking down at my son, whose head barely cleared my hip. The absurdity would have been funny if it wasn't terrifying. I showed him my ID, pointed out our house, the one with the blue door and flower pots I planted, the one that suddenly didn't feel so welcoming. He checks the address, nods, then heads across the street to talk to her. My son asks me, "Mommy, what did I do wrong?" And that's the part that kills you. How do you explain to a child that someone hates him for existing, for something he can't change? I told him, "You did nothing wrong, baby. Absolutely nothing." The officer comes back, looking exhausted, tells me she insists we're strangers, claims she's never seen us, says we must have just moved in. I wanted to scream. We'd lived there 3 years. The officer said, "Legally, you've done nothing wrong. Your son's entitled to get on this bus. She's been warned about filing false reports." But then he asks me, "Just for today, could you drive him to school, just to keep things calm?" I said yes. Because what else do you do when your kid is shaking and the bus driver's apologizing and all you want is for your child to stop being a target? Watching that yellow bus drive away, with my son's friends, his routine, his excitement, all I felt was defeat. The day went on. I brought my son to school, walked him in. The secretary, all smiles, handed him a tardy slip. I explained what happened. The principal overheard and pulled me into her office. She was angry, furious on my behalf, and promised to escalate it. It was the first time I felt like I wasn't alone. But the nightmare wasn't over. That afternoon, the principal called. The bus cameras had captured the whole incident, audio and all. There'd be an investigation. Meanwhile, our neighbor posted her own version on the local app. painting herself as a vigilant hero protecting the neighborhood from outsiders. People, at first, supported her. "You can't be too careful. Thank you for looking out for our kids." It made me sick. But then our other neighbor, Sarah, came over, told us she saw everything, and offered to be our witness. For a moment, the ice started to crack. The next few days were a blur. The district attorney's office pressed charges, filing a false police report, harassment, hate crime enhancement. The news hit the neighborhood like a bomb. Some people started avoiding us. Others sent quiet messages of support. Our neighbor doubled down, bringing in her son, a real bruiser with a bad temper. Suddenly, we weren't just dealing with her. We were living across the street from an entire campaign of intimidation. Revving engines, glares, weird stares from the porch. The police told us to keep a log, document everything, but honestly, it felt like we were living under siege. I did what I could. I wrote a letter for the bus driver when they tried to suspend him, arguing he didn't deserve to lose his job for panicking in an impossible situation. He kept his job and thanked me, tears in his eyes. The principal kept pushing. The DA moved fast. But the real blow came from the HOA. A formal complaint accusing us of causing a disturbance, all written in the same language our neighbor used, sanitized but sharp as a knife. We showed up at the HOA meeting, armed with the video, the timeline, our story. The board, old-timers who never cared about anything but trash cans and mailbox colors, watched the footage. When it ended, you could hear a pin drop. The president, a guy I'd only ever talked to about fertilizer, dismissed the complaint, issued a formal warning to our neighbor, and said any more harassment would mean fines and sanctions. It felt good. Maybe not a movie ending, but good. Still, I didn't feel elated. Just tired. Then came the real twist, the for sale sign in her yard. But it wasn't real. Her granddaughter reached out, told us she was just selling the house to her other son, a guy with a history of violence and anger. Reinforcements, not a retreat. Our lives got smaller. Our son wouldn't play outside. We avoided the front door. The intimidation escalated. Finally, after her son broke a garden gnome on the porch, the police helped us get a restraining order. It gave us some peace, but it was a paper-thin shield. The trial came. The prosecutor was relentless. The video, the witnesses, the letters her own son gave us, full of her hateful words. I testified. The defense tried to paint me as oversensitive, as someone who didn't fit the community. But the video didn't lie. The jury found her guilty, filing a false report, 2 counts of harassment with a hate crime enhancement. She wasn't going to jail, but she had probation, a hefty fine, mandatory training, and a permanent restraining order. Her son escalated after that, tried to intimidate us in the courthouse, but that only got him slapped with his own restraining order and charges of witness intimidation. The circle was closing. And then, finally, they both moved out. The house sat empty for weeks before a new family moved in. Kind, friendly, just neighbors. I stayed on the HOA board, helped write a new anti-harassment bylaw, worked on community events. Little by little, life came back. My son started smiling again. Neighbors dropped off pies, people waved. The whole place felt lighter. The wounds were still there, but so was the healing. And sometimes, when I'm standing at the window, watching my son run across the yard, I wonder how many other good neighborhoods have monsters hiding just below the surface. How many people just go along until someone finally stands up? Yeah, we got our peace back. But more than that, we found out who our real neighbors were. The ones who stood up, who showed up, who helped rebuild after the storm. So here's what I know now. When hate comes for you, you can't run and you can't hide. You fight with truth, with evidence, with allies. You fight for your family, your kids' future, and, yeah, for the soul of your own block. And sometimes, just sometimes, you win. So what would you have done? Would you have fought? Or kept your head down? I'd really like to know, because I think that's the question we all have to answer, sooner or later.